Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another interesting episode of ET UnWired, leading the way with AI-driven enterprise, powered by Juniper Networks and Reddington. This is Krishna Mukherjee from ET Edge. No doubt, the COVID-19 pandemic has reshaped various industries. The pandemic accelerated the curve of digital transformation, replacing traditional complex IT architectures with modern IT. Healthcare providers are imagining new ways how digital care delivery can improve patient outcomes, enhance the patient experience, boost workforce well being, and lower the cost of care. At the same time, the education sector is now becoming used to with smart classes. Ladies and gentlemen, today we would be discussing about certain AI-driven platforms that can deep dive into network and optimize user experience and service assurance, eliminating the increasing IT complexity that is a hurdle in realizing the desired business goals. Without further delay, let's get into an interesting conversation. Let me introduce and welcome our eminent panelists. We are glad to have with us today JP Dwivedi, CIO Rajiv Gandhi Cancer Institute and Research Center, Bala Subramaniam Narayanan, General Manager and Head IT Applications and Support, Cloud9 Group of Hospitals, Jayanta Lahiri, EVP and Global CIO First Source, Sunil Pandey, Professor Director IT and UG, Institute of Technology and Science, Rajesh Kumar, Head of Systems, Engineering Enterprise and Government Business, Juniper Networks, Ashwini Mishra, Consulting Technology Editor, ETH. Thank you all for joining. With that, let me hand it over to Ashwini for moderating the session. Over to you, Ashwini. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna, for the introduction. And again, good morning and welcome to all the panel members. We have an interesting mix of speakers from the healthcare, IT services, and the education sectors. And I'm sure as they share their insights and views on the topic, there will be some key lessons that all of us can take from here. Innovation in the enterprise networking space has traditionally been driven by hardware. It has always been around bits and feeds. That has changed. Today, it's more about software applications that can run anywhere from an on-premise data center to multiple public clouds. The network of today is a matrix of connectivity between users, applications, and data. In all this transformation, network automation plays a central role, and artificial intelligence is seen as a key enabler that can power the network's potential. While the enterprise network is considered as the lifeline of an organization, there are challenges that have limited its efficiency in some form. Having said this, and without taking much time, I will now open up the forum and request each one of you to take a couple of minutes and share your views on what, according to you, are some of the challenges that you face in terms of your enterprise network, and have these challenges accelerated post the pandemic. I think let's begin with the healthcare companies. Let's begin with you, JP sir. The healthcare sector has had the most predominant and essential responsibility in the ongoing pandemic. While the sector stepped up in unprecedented manner almost overnight to save millions of lives across the world, technology did help them, ramp up operations. And how did it impact your network operations, and what are the challenges that you face?
Thank you, Ashwini, and thanks ET to invite me to this forum and having an opportunity to share the dais with eminent speakers here. We have been talking about medical grade network for almost a decade.
Right.
But then the prominence has come in fore during this pandemic. The doctors who were very happy writing on papers and seeing patients in person, they all are now equally happy to adopt to technology and do the virtual consults and everything. But then the challenge comes. CIOs are very happy putting their servers and storage and everything on the cloud. But then what to do with the network? They have to manage the network in-house only. And there the role of technology comes, particularly in two different aspects. One is availability. Now we cannot afford the network outage for even 2 minutes.
True.
You can see at least the people queuing up in front of billing stations, doctors not able to see the images, not able to even prescribe because previous records are there online. Lots of things. Everywhere there is a chaos. Lab report are not visible. So, you know, availability has become a crucial part. Second is about security. So, ensuring privacy, because as data is going online, you must be sure that there is no unauthorized access to the data. There is no intrusion of anyone who is not supposed to look at the medical records, and there is no misuse of the information of the patient's personal property.
Right.
So these are very basic challenges, although we are looking at much higher aspects of the usage of artificial intelligence, including robotic process automation, including precision surgery conducted by robot, including advanced radiology diagnostics, where the artificial intelligence can predict and detect certain lesions or certain areas which are not visible to the naked eyes. Lot of such uses. Electronic health record, you see doctors being assisted by the voice recognition or handwriting recognition software, so that the accurate notes could be taken without doctors really having to typing in. These are phenomenal aspects, where the artificial intelligence can help. And intelligent networks are of paramount importance. That is the basic infrastructure or backbone on which we embark upon the journey of modernization and advancement.
Very well shared, JP sir. So you've given a good perspective in terms of why networks need to be intelligent, considering the amount of areas that the healthcare entire ecosystem is looking at, right from your doctors to the patients to the lab reports, various stuff. I'll come back to these some key points that you touched, but once we hear from everyone else as well. Bala, from a Cloud9 perspective, what have been the challenges around your network?
Yeah, thank you, Ashwini, and good morning, everybody. See, whether it is doctor, clinicians, or technology, networking is a must. That's what they say. So
Right.
the outcome will be as good as the quality of the network. So in technology, talking about a network, the connectivity is very much important. As Mr. Dwivedi said, availability is the key. There cannot be even 2 minutes outage. He said even less than that, even half a minute outage is also bad.
True.
The doctors, they rely on patient health records and some of the tools, diagnostic tools which they use, or clinical decision support systems which they use. And the patient is using the mobile apps and things like that. Any small delay will very much affect the outcome
Outcome.
and
Right.
ultimately the customer experience or the patient experience or the experience, the doctors will get frustrated. So the reliability of the networks is very much important. And when we talk about the reliability, it is the slowness and the availability. As rightly said, the pandemic has thrown open the, in my opinion, the pandemic has thrown open the adoption or accelerated the adoption. In fact, hospitals were uh, moving fast in their digital journey, but overnight, the adoption has increased
Increased.
100%. That's a good sign. And now, instead of upgrading the networks based on need, hospitals have started planning their network. IT has been given a prominent role, a very important role, even during planning the construction of the hospital right from that stage, so that what are all the things that could affect the speed of the connectivity
Connectivity.
that is being taken care.
Right. Right.
Even then, there may be variety of reasons. See, there can be the doctors are accessing their patient records. The medical devices are connected, IoT devices are connected. When doing all these things, certain areas will require 100% uptime without even half a minute downtime.
Long time.
And certain areas it can be slow. So whether there has to be a proper balancing between where there is a need, where there is a access to a critical application, there it has to ensure 100%
Availability.
uptime and
Right.
availability. And wherever in other cases, so that balancing, constant balancing needs to be there. So that has to be built in terms of intelligence there where AI may help or software defined networking may help. These are all some of the areas that would overcome the challenges that are being faced.
Based. Right, right. Thank you, Bala, for sharing your views. Jayanta, from a first sources perspective, being an IT services company, one of the focus areas after the impact of COVID was to ensure that the customers' ongoing operations were safeguarded and that you could provide them with the same quality of services without disruptions. How has your network, supported you in this, and what have been the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me in this session. From a ITS company perspective, from Trustsource perspective, we manage more than 100 hospitals globally, from
Okay.
India as well as UK and US.
Right.
Right. And when the pandemic hit us, one of the major issues that we had was how we are going to manage this hospital, both from a patient's perspective, from a doctor's perspective, from all their paramedics and nursing perspective and everything. So we have thousands of connectivities, thousands of users calling up our contact center, trying to understand what's going on, when can we have doctor's appointment, what are the insurance schemes that I'm eligible for. So it is not just the doctors, it is also we have to connect to the insurance companies
Right.
from a medical perspective. So that was a major thing. But one of the advantages, or rather I would say thinking that we already had and that we had before the pandemic hit us, was our network was SDN, software defined network compliant. So we already have a network which can be easily scalable.
Scalable. Right.
It can scale up, scale down based on the requirement. In an ideal scenario, it would have taken us weeks and months to get our bandwidth upgraded to the required level during the pandemic, but that was not a problem because we could scale up pretty easily. And the other point was, to Mr. Dubedi's point and Mr. Bala's point, I fully agree that it has to be 100% available. But that is probably easier said than done, because I remember that even during pandemics, there was undersea cable cuts and there was some, latency issues, and all these are also, all these are also, sometimes it becomes very critical from our US hospitals perspective, because we'll have to manage their PHI and PII data, and no
Right.
data can flow to India. So everything has to be in US.
US. Right.
So latency plays a very important role. Gone are those days where you can just click a button and immediately you will get the screen in front of you. Takes a lot of time. So one is the network has to be highly available, the latency has to be proper, and added to that, we'll have to have fallback auto failovers. And that is also one of the reasons why you could succeed, because most of our major network across the world, we have auto failover, and that is also driven by AI. So artificial intelligence can sense if there is any issue that is coming in particular latency in one path, it can automatically change over the path.
Change over the path. Right.
Yeah, so those are the things. But having said that, so SDN is very important, I think, from everyone's perspective. AI is important. And one of the other things which is, we have Cisco technologies with us, and there's a technology called IBNS, which is intent-based network solutions, which is auto heal kind of networking. So if there is anything which is going wrong in any component of network, be it a switch or a router, it will automatically sense before it actually strikes, and it will change the path.
Right.
So it's called self-heal kind of network.
That's again
Uh,
AI enabled kind of a.
yeah, so self-heal, and this is something pretty new which has come up. It will see it is just like a doctor, it keeps watching the network devices as a patient and see where the path should go to have a better connectivity. I think those are the most important points. But yes, having said that, there are other issues also. As I was saying, we have bandwidth issues, local bandwidth, the last mile connectivity bandwidth. That is always an issue in India compared to US or other developed countries.
That's good to know. So in a way, as enterprises, we are looking at networks that are intelligent and help us to solve issues or predict situations that would arise, which are unknown. So that's good to know. Dr. Pandey, again from an education sector perspective, this sector was also impacted heavily. It started to gear up for smart classes that can deliver superior experiences for students, teachers, and administrators. What have been the challenges that you would want to share that has impacted your institute?
Uh, Thank you, Ashwini, and I'm really thankful to ET for inviting me to this very important session with this elite panel of experts. In fact, I believe that probably the education sector was one of the most impacted sector due to this COVID-19, because especially in India, when it comes to education, we all are the mindset has been to focus on to follow the conventional processes, the conventional system, whether it is academic delivery or evaluation or assessment, whatever it is. And when I still remember when on 17th March it was, and we got communication from the state government and then district administration that everything is going to be closed for next 3 weeks. Now, uh, no academic institution would ever have thought of that they are going to be trapped in a situation where everything will be on hold.
True.
And nobody knew how to do this, because March was the time when at every institution the academics was on peak, was in mid of the semester, and keeping everything on hold for about 3 weeks time, because initially it was 3 weeks and then subsequently it was extended till
Right.
June. So, and then keeping everything on hold for 3 weeks when things were on peak, and then coming back to that situation and then start again was really going to be very difficult. But thanks to technology, we as an academic institution, at least, we have always appreciated the technology, and we always believe that technology is something which not only improves the processes, the function, but it also improves the quality uh, of communication. So we had established our video conferencing setup at Mohanagar Ghaziabad campus in 2006.
Right.
So our faculty and students, up to some extent, at least had that fair idea that what actually it is and how online things could be. But they never had that experience to conduct this session, the classes on these platform. But then, since we had that system in place, at least to begin with, uh, 2 days, in fact, because that was the time when, irrespective of what departments people belong to, whether it was management or information technology or electrical engineering or dentistry or pharmacy or biotechnology, whatever departments were there, uh, to convince them that how technology will help them to keep things on. That was the biggest challenge.
Biggest challenge. Right.
Then we formed smaller teams. We had just 3 days because the information was coming that this lockdown is going to be extended further. We were not in position to afford to keep things like that. And we formed a small team of 2 to 3. So we have 8 institutions in this entire group with 4 campuses, over 10,000 students, 800 plus faculty. So in a larger group, it was very difficult to address. So we formed different groups.
Shorter
We
teams,
sent this,
right.
and then we got help from people like you who are in industry. They also came forward the ideas, because we have a strong connect with industry. Lots of people from industry, they come to us, they share their perspective, they help us in training, they help us in creating and upgrading our infrastructure. So we requested them, we got support from them, and then somehow we could manage within 3 days. Everything from conventional mode was transferred to the online mode. We procured the infrastructure, but so that was the thing. And then the biggest problem was after academic was shifted to digital platform, that how the assessment and evaluation, because everyone was talking in dark. Nobody had ever experienced it, how to conduct these things, because if a system is in place, it's okay. But now migrating from one platform to digital platform, it requires change in mindset too.
Right.
And that mindset, the biggest challenge was the mindset. Then because people had their own illusion, some of them used to talk that if we are communicating on net, that security issue is going to be there. Many of us might not have even heard what the cyber security is going to be, what kind of challenges they are going to have. But then
Right.
still there was the issues. But then somehow, with the help of the team, we conducted number of online sessions. We conducted sessions by experts in industry. They came forward, they addressed, and then they had their own question, their own queries, and
And
those things were resolved.
so more of creating awareness,
That
education,
was very much
change management.
important.
So
And then when it came, when I see about the challenges what are coming up when it comes to network, now of course, we will come back to this part. I saw you are going to discuss about
sure,
this
yes.
new technology, but uh, the way this IP traffic is increasing. I was studying one report which was issued by KPMG, and then subsequently another reports also that IP traffic is increasing by 24% per year at that speed, and it is expected that by end of year 2021, this growth is going to hit 3.3 zettabyte, that is 3.2 trillion gigabytes by end of 2021, with when broadband is expected to be doubled this year. And
And that's going
with
to have an impact again on the
yeah,
net.
and then the expected arrival of 5G, which is expected soon to be available here also, that it is expected to going to deliver around 10 gigabit per second speed. And that Mr. Balasubramanian sir was talking about the latency, that because this is going to be very crucial.
Crucial.
We can't afford to disconnection in network, because if some important activity or process is going on, any disconnection not only can harm the data, but it can harm the human lives too.
Right, right.
So
So points well taken. So you're trying to address the challenges as well. But I'm sure as we progress,
yeah,
the intelligence that some of our panel members did speak about will come into play
yeah,
here.
yeah.
Right. Thank you for your views, Dr. Pandey. So I'll draw in Rajesh. So Rajesh, we've heard our panel members speak about. So one thing is very certain, that network uptime is non-negotiable. So that's 100%. And they've spoken about availability, security, privacy, latency should not be there. So now, how is Juniper enabling this change, so that IT leaders can shift their focus to business transformation, rather than just building and running their infrastructures? Rajesh, you're on mute.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks. It was an excellent conversation, what I was hearing about. What we see from as a OEM perspective is these are the issues what the customers come up with, right? Whether it's availability, whether it's security, whether it's latency, whether it's failover. So there are a lot of things which you look at from the network perspective. But what we see from Juniper is these are all one of the reasons why the IT should be, the complexity should be reduced and simplicity should be brought into their networks, so that they can do their job properly without affecting the network and the user's experience. So what we call it as experience first, or you experience is the next uptime, what we call. Right, today when I hear a lot of panelists talking about critical applications to take the right path, or if some the latency issues, that means to say that user requires experience. He doesn't mind whether he is on a wireless, whether he is on a wired, or he is going to the cloud, or is to his own private data center, wherever it is, wherever the applications are hosted, right? But from the user perspective, he should get that experience what he requires. So that is where Juniper today, if you look at it from the AI driven enterprise, what we have brought in as a solution, we provide the AI capabilities to solve all these issues, right? First, I want to tell you that AI today, if you look at Gartner, right, the AI ops has become very critical for any of the network maintenance or operations perspective, right? Because it is very simple, it can provide speed and accurate and take measures as predictive analysis. So one of the panelists were talking about self-healing networks, right?
Right.
So that is where the AI is moving from actually to the proactive to the self, what Juniper calls it as a self-driven networks without any human intervention, getting deep visibility insights into the network. For example, today, so one of the panelists talked about that the last mile is an issue for me, right? Why? Because there is, when you look at security, when you look at this kind of networks, there is a lot of encryption, there is a lot of process which happens, which
Right.
will create latency to the applications. There is a lot of overlay technologies which every OEM uses, right? That becomes a lot of overheads onto the network. See, network also has overheads, so which user doesn't have to look at, but there is a lot of overheads which creates these latencies. What we have done is, from Juniper, using the AI and the SDN philosophy, we have removed those overlay technologies completely, right? For example, images. They said that images may not be visible properly. Why? Because images is already getting double encrypted. Why the images has to get double encrypted? If the network was intelligent enough to see that I don't have to encrypt the images and send it as it is, then they would have then the doctors would have got the better user experience rather than having a break in the images. So
Right.
that is where the AI comes into play, because it keeps learning and it knows that what needs to be taken care in terms of the application, what latency, what path, what happens. Today, if you have a overlay technology, the failover takes a lot of time. That is why you see latency. If there is no overlay technologies to be taken care, then automatically the failover happens and the user will never even come to know that there was some disturbance in the network. Correct.
Precisely.
So,
Right.
what we bring in is those kind of artificial intelligence, deep insights into the network, and also bring the experience and the user experience back to the network. Whether it's wired, whether it's wireless, or whether it's a wide area network, whether it's a SD-WAN, we call it as a client to cloud technology. That
Okay.
means client sitting anywhere, and accessing any application anywhere across any kind of elements. He should have that experience end to end. Whether it's a Zoom call, whether it's an image, whether a doctor talking to a patient, we take care. We are not talking of packets here. We are talking about user experience and the sessions, how we can take care by intelligent AI ops functionality. So there are four things which I wanted to say. One is the user experience, one is the application experience, one is the operational experience, and finally the security without any performance
Performance
degradation,
issues.
right? So this is what we bring in as Juniper.
Right. Right.
So further going, I can explain more in terms of how
Sure.
this AI also brings a lot of other capabilities in terms of addressing the anomalies, right? Those, and also when employees are coming back, what are the things they need to look at? There are a lot of things which we are doing from the AI perspective, right, today. And also for the hospitals, asset tracking, or coming into the field of like for a wayfinding, when they come inside, how to go to the doctor? Why someone has to tell how to go to the doctor, right? To the or to the patient. So if it can be digitized, what we call it as indoor location digitization capabilities, what we can bring in, which will help the people coming into the hospitals or people coming into the healthcare, so that they can have the app and they can go through it completely, right?
Complete.
So this kind of comfort, this kind of simplicity, and this kind of scale or elasticity, whatever we are talking about, the availability, all that will come into play, and the user experience automatically gets enhanced.
Very well said. So network being up is not the same as being good. So
Correct,
because the network is operational doesn't mean the users on the network are having a good experience.
correct.
Having said that, now I would not choose the panel members. Please feel free to share your thoughts. How are you rethinking about your networks? And how important is wireless strategy? For your organization, and use of AI enabled wireless strategy for that matter. We have touched upon 5G evolution, and it's going to mobilize your workforce, extend automation, support new applications. So what's the strategy when you're trying to rethink your networks for the future?
So, Ashwini ji, better to start with our own failure. Just couple of days back, there was a network failure in my organization. And we saw that both our core switches were down.
Right.
Now we built resiliency. Those were on high availability, but both coming down simultaneously is like both the, plane engines going down at the same time.
Right. We saw that for the National Stock Exchange as well, JP sir.
Right. So
That
this
was
is I am now what the OEMs can do for us. We just uploaded the reports. They are still analyzing the logs, and someday the report will come. Now we need some sort of proactive measures here. AI can really keep sending the heartbeat signals. It can keep checking the state of readiness of the high availability solution. And if there are certain components that are really getting weary, some wear and tear happens. I want the system to automatically raise the intent to the OEM and let the component be under the shipping, come on board proactively. We need not really look for it. So that is the kind of readiness that really we require, and particularly
more of preemptive and predictive in a way. Yes.
exactly. So that is how Rajesh ji, you can help us
Yeah, sure.
in being
Exactly.
more fit
Yeah.
to serve the patients.
Uh, can I come in or?
Yes, any Jayanta, you want to share your views on? You're on mute. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a great point, Dr. Mr. Dwivedi had said raised, and we also have similar thoughts. But I would like to understand more from an ITS organization perspective. Any of the IT or ITS, network plays an important role, but it comes at a huge cost, right? And we continue to pay huge bandwidth cost month on month, week on week, year on year. So I was wondering if there is a solution on a pay-per-use model for bandwidth, that when it should be just like cloud. When I use it, I pay for it. When I don't use it, I don't pay for it. I have not seen any technology company like Juniper or others have come out with a clear-cut plan. Yes, they have something bits and pieces, but yeah, I mean, in future, the future network should be just like a cloud, right? It should be absolutely flexible. Scalability should be high, and I can only use it during the night time when my operation happens, and in the daytime I don't have to pay for it. Something like that is a need of the hour from the industry perspective. And one more point on the incident that Mr. Dwivedi talked about. I think, as I mentioned before, self-healing is very important. So if there is a self-heal technology wherein, auto heal, I know that it's called IBNS, intent-based network solution, where the network routers can actually resolve things themselves based on past experience. So it should know what has happened over last 3 months into the router or switches or whatever it is, and do some software upload, download to resolve the issues without any manual intervention. I think those are the need of the hour.
Yes, Rajesh.
Thank you. That's a very good point. Just to come to Divedi sir first. Sir, today that is what the artificial intelligence can give you, because what happens is we call it from the AI perspective as rightly pointed out, that predictive analysis, right? We gather data from the switches all the time on the real time basis, and what it gives you is the predictive analysis, unbehavioral. If it can see that switches are doing some unbehavioral characteristics or the anomalies, what it is going to see, then it will actually alert the IT management saying that this is what the issues are. Do you want? And also today, if you look at our AI engine, what we call it as Marvis, like a Jarvis in Iron Man, we call
Yes.
it as our a Siri or a whatever you talk about. We call our AI engine as Marvis, right? When you go and say Marvis, how is my switches doing today, right? For example, then it will tell you exactly how your switches are, because there may be some CPU issue, there may be, as I rightly pointed out, memory issue, there may be some big DDoS attack may be happening on your core switches, so you may not be aware of, right? So for example, that is what happens when both core switches went down, because there may be something which has affected both the core switches from the anomaly perspective. So that can tell you exactly what is there, and you can take that measures. And also we have something known as Marvis conversation interface. That means to say that it will tell you that, do you want to look at this, or do you want me to upgrade the switch? Do you want me to put a filters into the switch so that I reduce this broadcast traffic coming and hitting the core switches today, right? So that is the capability of AI, because they keep learning, dynamically learning always on your network, and they try to give you this predictive behavioral analysis and tell you your network was behaving today this way, but suddenly I see there is a spike happening, and it is not a natural spike, it should be an abnormal spike happening in your network. So do you want to take certain measures, ABCD measures? Then you can say whether you want to take it humanly, or you want to allow the Mavis engine to them himself go and correct it by itself. This is what we are coming more than a self-healing, what we call it as a self-driven network. Self-healing is human intervention is required to heal that whenever there is a problem. In a self-driven network, the network itself heals and create and solves those problems which it has seen as unbehavioral characteristics. That would have taken care in terms of your course which is going down, sir. Coming to the other questions, of talking about self, actually set up about self-healing and self-driving and paperless kind of solution. Yes, today if you look at the OEMs, we talk something known as network as a service, right? That is where today in the you don't have to have big appliances. That is where the problem comes in, right? For a Wi-Fi, you will have a controller, you will have a location based engine, you will have overlay technologies. There is so much of hardware being put into your network, the upgrades, the maintenance, all this will relate to the outages of the network. So the cloud native, the cloud enabled, the cloud scale kind of architectures today gives you network as a service. That means you subscribe what you want and you don't subscribe what you don't want, right? And whenever you want for certain period of time, you subscribe for the service. If you don't want the service, you remove. For example, when employees are coming back to office, you subscribe for contact tracing solution, which is one of the solutions of Juniper, where we can, if someone says that I am a COVID affected, then immediately we can tell who are the people who were close proximity to that particular COVID patient, and also where this patient has gone across the building in last 15 days. We can tell those people that they can quarantine. Also, the locations where he has gone can be quarantined. So after 3 months, when everything is over, you can pull back that subscription back, right? So these are some of the technologies what we bring in as AI. So Marvis is one of the great AI engines what we brought in with a conversational interface which will help you solve and give you predictive analysis, insights into the network, deeper visibility, and also provide you the self-driven capabilities of the network.
Right. Yes, Bala.
Yeah. In addition to the visible and monitoring facility, which Rajesh has been mentioning, there has to be, I mean, the same point I'm repeating. See, the need of the speed will vary. For example, the a doctor in ICU, he requires, definitely he requires 100% availability rather than a clinician outside doing some research work. So the network, there has to be some automatic intelligent solution which makes available whenever there is a need in critical areas, it has to be made available, so that otherwise what's happening in case wherever there is a speed is low, we put additional access points, and it comes with its own challenges. Instead, if there can be a self-monitoring and load adjustment or load balancing thing kind of thing, that would be better.
Yeah. So the Wi-Fi 6 with the RRM functionality with the AI gives you this capabilities where you can actually put the critical applications with a high quality of experience, what we call it as service level enhancements, right? Or service level experience, what we call it as Wi-Fi SLE or a wired SLE. SLE means service level experience. So for example, this ICU application requires a high priority, then the AI will know that this application requires this much of latency, this much of packet loss, for example, and it will tell you that this is the radio frequency you need to take, example, through the wired also. It is just not Wi-Fi. It may be because Wi-Fi may give you good bandwidth, but wired may have congestion, right, in the network. So you need to look at end to end till it hits the application. So whether it's a Wi-Fi or it's a whether it keeps one service level experience for that particular application for those users. And it will see to it that whenever there is a congestion in the network, this application doesn't get affected, even though rest of the applications may take a queuing or a buffering, or I may drop depending upon the criticality of those applications. But with the AI capability, it can enhance this user experience because it has learned that this application requires most critical features on the network across wireless, wired, and WAN, for example. So these are the users who wants to know, who wants to use this application. So it puts that, actually we call it as a session based routing. We call it a session smart routing capabilities, SSR. So that is a technology what we have brought in, which is based on session, which is not based on packets.
Okay.
So for that ICU application, it is a one session for me end to end, which I take care depending upon the latency, depending upon the availability of the link, and I see to it that this application doesn't have any experience issues for any of the users who are accessing on it. That is the capability what we bring in.
Yeah, Rajesh, I think this is very interesting discussion. So I have 2 points to make, and I want to know whether we have a solution towards that. One of the issues that we face in day-to-day life, and I'm sure all of the panelists will agree, is in terms of troubleshooting, whenever there is a poor latency or any kind of a thing, we fail to understand where the problem lies. Is it in the network level, or in the application level, or in the workstation level, or in the data center, or in the cloud, where the problem is, right? And our technical teams, they take a lot of time in analyzing, and that eats up a lot of downtime and stuff like that. So do you have a tool, AI based, end to end resolution kind of a tool, which will track right from my application level to the workstation level to cloud level, end to end? That is one. And then other point is about, where do you see the future of network function virtualization, NFV, and how AI is going to play a role in NFV? We have two kinds of virtualizations: north, south, and east, west. Which one do you prefer, and why?
Yeah.
Quickly,
So,
Rajesh, we are nearing cutoff time, so please.
sorry. Yeah, quickly I'll finish it off. So, sir, to answer your two questions, the first question is the right question what you asked, because today the AI gives you the capability to resolve the issues before the users coming to know about it. I will tell you how, right? Because today what happens is, because of the AI, we capture around 150 kind of pointers in the network, and also what we do is we recreate that using something known as a dynamic packet capture capabilities. That means I do a dynamic packet capture for a user accessing that application across the Wi-Fi, wired, WAN, end to end. And once the IT looks at it, he can clearly identify whether it's an authentication. Hello? Yeah, can I go ahead?
Yes,
Yeah.
please, Rajesh.
Whether it's an authorization issue, whether it's an authentication issue, whether it's a DHCP issue, whether it's a RRM issue, whether it's a Wi-Fi capacity issue, or whether it's a user not is getting connected but he has not got the right throughput. So we recreate that completely by using a dynamic packet capture, and IT can resolve it in minutes. That is one. And the second, I talked about Marvis. You can just go to Marvis and say, who are the unhappy users today in my network, for example. It will tell you Rajesh is one of the unhappy users because of A, B, C, D, E, F, right? What you asked, sir. It may be authentication, it may be latency, it may be bandwidth, it may be DHCP, or it may be something else. So it will give you all these details, and it will also tell you, for example, it can also tell you that, for example, you have created a VLAN and you have not created that in a switch. It can tell you that because of this, these users are not being able to be connected to your network, or it may be a bad cable, right? That also it will tell you. The AI will tell you whether it has been connected to a bad cable has been connected for a printer, for example, right? So this gives you the capability, the dynamic packet capture, analyzing the applications, what they are using. That gives you the capability to isolate the problems, resolve the problems much more than users come to know about it. One example I want to tell you. In ServiceNow company, they used to have 200 tickets per month. Today, they have only 2 tickets or 1 ticket almost 3 months to 4 months. Because of the AI and the Marvis, what we brought in, we were able to resolve the issues before the users come to know about the issue. That is the first one. And the second one, what you asked is what is that?
NFV, network function virtualization.
So did I answer your question, sir?
Yeah,
With the
yeah.
Marvis,
Yeah.
So VNF, yes, because of the 5G capabilities and the 5G and the edge computing and what a lot of video content and all this coming into the edge, where the users wants to have close to the edge, the virtual network function virtualization is becoming very critical. As you rightly said, whether it can be north, south, or east, west doesn't matter for us as a network, right? Because today the edge computing, the telco cloud capabilities, the 5G services which needs to be offered, the latency to be reduced, high bandwidth to be provided, the VNFs are becoming very critical because you need to host multiple applications, you need to do service chaining for those applications. So as you rightly said, the VNFs are the part of the complete, when you look at the telco cloud architecture, and they provide these capabilities to have the user experience close to the user at the edge. Because I don't have time, so I didn't go deep, but
Sure.
I just wanted to highlight that. So these are some of the capabilities. So today, if you look at it, AI gives you all those capabilities in terms of reducing the human intervention, increasing the speed, reducing the complexity, and enhancing the resolution of issues in minutes, and then making your network always available to provide a user experience.
Right. Dr. Pandey,
Thank you.
final thoughts. You have a minute, to share your thoughts in terms of how you are rethinking your network, so.
See, being a person from academia, where of course that academics is one thing, and then research, ongoing researches are integral part of the process. What we are looking for, because we are into certain projects, that the kind of complexity is being added to these networks, where we have all kind of network environments, the hybrid and multi-cloud strategies, which requires network visibility also. So this means the connectivity performance between the enterprise and service providers has to be monitored to determine the most efficient data flow, uh, and achieve improved network performance, cost saving, and resilience. This is something which, when we talk, share our work or share our understanding, this is being posed by different people, that whether we are heading towards some kind of solution which will ensure that the network visibility is there, number one, because now people have even started thinking about going ahead of cloud sitting. The
Right.
edge computing is something which is people have already started talking about,
Right.
because people are looking at from the perspective that with this voluminous growth of data, after integrating the different environment, where structured, unstructured, and semi-structured, everything is coming at the same place, not different kind of things. Now, the issue which I uh, think that the AI and machine learning, it's something which is promising uh, a refined software defined networks, where, as Rajesh had mentioned, in fact, he was very nicely, he brought out those things. A number of questions I had, but those questions have already been answered by Rajesh. But just a small thing which I would like to put forward, that now we are looking ahead in next 5 to 7 years down the line, that AI-based business, because there is massive adoption of technology, especially the application, the products which are based on AI, and it is seen that it is predicted that around $15.5 trillion is going to be added on existing revenue, only through these AI-based applications, AI-based application. And what the basis is, the kind of network is being created due to this IoT, because now people are looking at different devices are going to be connected, which is already started, of course, up to limited extent. But then these devices communicate at different protocols. They communicate at different frequency level when it comes to Bluetooth or normal networks or wireless networks. How this 5G, because 5G promises that it will have 1 microsecond latency time. This is what it is promising. How the network equipments creator or network creator organization, to which
Right.
Rajesh ji present,
Right.
how these issues are going to be addressed, that the devices and the networks working on different frequency bands, uh, working on different protocol stack, whether any work is being done on creating certain kind of transparent interface by which, by keeping all these communication, these protocols back, still these heterogeneous networks, which are of course not conventional networks, could be connected and made sure that secure communication takes place.
Right. Rajesh, you have half a minute to answer this. After this, I'm going to call this.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. So, sir, this was a good question because today, see, when you look at the concepts which are coming in any of the OEMs, what they bring in is something known as a standard-based interfaces. Whether they have a different protocols, what they run, they have a different stacks to run, but there will be what we call it as a standard interfaces capability using a software-defined networking, right? So when we come up with this kind of, there is a lot of standard-based like NetConf is there. So when they bring that and with RESTful API capabilities and the gateway functionalities, these kind of heterogeneous elements and the protocols can be taken care in terms of how we can bring into a standardization world, right? So that is what the key, what the OEMs look at, because because the standardization is very important in any of the 5G or any of the edge computing or any of the telco cloud aspects what you look at. But when there is no standardization in some of the aspects, then what we do is we create something known as a SDK or a software defined or a software development kit or something known as a RESTful APIs or the gateways. We take care of the conversion of the proprietary to a standard based interfaces capabilities. So that is how this multi OEM, multi vendor today, if you look at internet, it's all multi OEM, multi devices, multi technologies running across, right? And also if you look at, as you rightly said, hybrid cloud may have multiple technologies running, multiple OEMs and all that, but there are all the standards being defined as a standard interfaces which everyone has to use it when they are talking to any other networks across the complete architecture. So that is how we follow this kind of standardization which is coming into terms as per the technology is concerned.
Right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Rajesh. I'll have to, end this now. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your views.
Thank you.
I will just quickly summarize the discussion. So we are already seeing AI in action in a number of the consumer devices that we use, and soon the role in the network is also likely to become just a commonplace. The future of network will be intelligent, and that was echoed across the board. While there are challenges that need to be mitigated, AI-driven networks has its own benefits. Embracing modern technologies to gain agility, reduce complexity, and take an all-important step on the road to a self-driving, self-healing network is a journey that I guess all enterprises will need to take. With this, I want to thank you all for again taking out time and participating. Over to you, Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen. That was an engaging and enlightening discussion indeed. Some music to the ear, terms like self healing technology, stuff like that. Thank you so much. Moving on, we have an interesting presentation. And for that, let me invite and hand it over to Shrikar Pawar, Senior Systems Engineer, Juniper Networks. Over to you, Shrikar.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Krishna. And I welcome all panelists and for a healthy discussion, and it was a very good, full, and engaging discussion. So before we start the presentation, I think so it's time for a quiz question. So Krishna, can you go ahead?
Dharma, can we get the poll outcome, please? Here we go. Shika, this is for you. 83% all of the above. So the question was, what can be the advantages of AI-driven enterprise in long run?
Sure. So let me share my slides. Okay. Yeah. So, hi, and why not? So the answers are pretty much in line what the network of the next decade looks like. Okay, so the AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, which were the buzzwords from last 5 years or so, and they have been adopted much in all our application industry while we are consuming more services. But network was the basic building block of the infrastructure which has been always kept away from these technologies. And we are proud Juniper Mist has been one of the leading AI enterprise solution in networks, which is full-fledged using AI and machine learning. And mind you, these are not the buzzwords, and we are definitely they are helping our customers across. So not taking much time, let me ponder upon my start my next slide here. So access network must adapt to changing times. So this slide is more about talking about what the access network for future business models or the current business model should look like. While this slide is just echoing what the panel discussion we had so far. First is the assurance. So I see Mr. Dwivedi and Mr. Bala complementing on this, the criticality of assurance. So any small outage in the network has a larger impact and a domino effect on the business revenues. And while we say that, how we believe Juniper can help is that currently the networks not only comprise of users who are accessing networks, but there are a lot of robotic elements and IoT elements are getting added. As Dr. Mr. Trivedi also told that there are a lot of robotics being used heavily in healthcare industry. Now, if the robot is having an issue in the network, it cannot raise a ticket. So the network has to be intelligent enough that we are able to identify the problem, what the IoT device is facing, what the users are facing, and resolve it in real time rather than keeping the issue open and leading to business outages. The next insight is the next important aspect is up is not the same as good. Okay, so earlier we have been always looking at whether my access point is up, whether my network switch is up, whether my gateway router is up, which has been the traditional way of network monitoring and operations. But even though all devices are running up, it does not translate that my network is meeting the expectation of the applications and everybody is having a seamless experience. So we would require more insights. So how we can do that? So we Juniper Mist solution captures 150 states of a user while connecting to a Wi-Fi network in pre-authentication and post-authentication, and how we can use AI and machine learning to pinpoint and understand a needle in a haystack problem, and to resolve the problem before it gets identified. The other aspect is, since the time to market has been one of the very critical component for business outcomes, so why not leverage automation? Automation has always been one of the important pillar in all the technologies, and network, which has been last 5 6 years, SDN has been the key point where the automation started integrating. However, this has not been so much adopted in campus networks, access networks, and enterprises, healthcare. So how we can leverage that? So we believe automation play machines should configure machines. So even if you want to deploy access points, so one of our customers who has a very large university in US, they were able to deploy 10,000 access points in just 3 months with the help of automation. So the automation helps not only in deploying new services in network, but also integrates, since entire solution is based on API, it can integrate with your existing healthcare application, retail application, and can give you a lot of automation capability for business decisions. Last but not the least is the relevance, how the network can be relevant. So we are using access network, Wi-Fi network for long, and primarily use case has been using internet and other services. But why the same network can give you more business use cases, for example digital engagement, or asset tracking capability in a retail use case, in a healthcare use case. So how this same network can complement your businesses rather than running multiple overlay networks. So this is what the new network looks like. And while wired and wireless devices are soaring, so these are the only critical element which are increasing in network. The core is a single layer, but the access is expanding and as per the business requirement, and how that can be, how AI can help for operations. So this is the slide which puts up the base for the discussion. And um, echoing another aspect of the panel discussion today was the experience. Now, experience is a word where the entire industry is poised actually. So no matter you are which users, whether you are booking a cab or you are watching on a cloud provided television series or anything, as a customer you always thrive for experience, and experience has been is the new keyword to measure uptime in your network. So while the applications, there are multiple applications organization are using, so how the network, which is the fundamental building block of the infrastructure, can help to enhance the experience of the application users, which are the normal users. But nevertheless, the team who is managing the networks, how we can simplify their operations and their life. So these are the two important aspects where we are measuring experience as a new uptime in the AI driven enterprise. So this is the mission, AI driven enterprise mission for Juniper. While we are measuring the user experience, and we are ensuring the programmability of the cloud using the artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies, and then enabling the IT to simplify their operations with the help of Marvis, which is our virtual network assistant. It is as good as a team player in your operations team in your NOC, who can just help troubleshoot problems. Now, while we say this, okay, uh, we started our journey, AI driven journey in the wireless segment, and we have now completed last year our AI driven journey on wired. So all our switches, all our access points are running capability to have an AI driven enterprise. And the mission and the vision of Juniper is to have the same AI engine, the machine learning engine, capable to run the SD-WAN solutions, which will actually enable the SD-WAN for AI WAN. I heard certain panelists had issues with latency and bandwidth while managing IT services. But SD-WAN is a kind of an open loop system yet. But AI WAN will definitely add more insights and more intelligence to deliver the expected results for a AI driven WAN. And last but not the least, data centers, where so this is the journey where we are creating a client to cloud connectivity, and all of this is underlaid using our connected security architecture. As one of our panelists suggested, security cannot be an afterthought, it has to be an integrated piece of a thing while we design a network. So connected security becomes a building block for all these elements which a normal enterprise uses. So just double clicking a bit on the AI driven enterprise, now we are seeing a lot of momentum, a lot of fortune companies are going towards the Juniper AI driven enterprise. So what is that? So if I would like to explain you in four pieces. So first is the client level visibility. Since, as I said, we are able to capture 150 states of a Wi-Fi client while it is connecting to our Wi-Fi network, we have our own service level experience, SLEs, what we call, as Rajesh sir said, and we are trying to measure every user while it connects, whether the user and the application is fulfilling the SLE. And with the help of this, we are able to understand, even though the network may look good overall, but there is certain applications, certain user who are facing problem, and we are able to go down so deep in so the network operations team do not have to spend time again to search for data. So this is the level of visibility that we have. That is the first pillar of the AI driven enterprise. The other pillar is the microservices cloud architecture. So the cloud era, so as I think so the panelists from education sector also said that cloud helped us survive the tide of this pandemic, And since the cloud, if there would have been no cloud, the education industry, the healthcare industry, or the IT, or whatever we are doing business, so the cloud has been very pivotal. And so why not the next generation networks, the networks for next decade should utilize the cloud services. So we have designed the network using microservices cloud. Now, what is the advantages of microservices cloud? It gives you scale. So you do not have to worry if you are building up a hospital, a 20 floor hospital. You have access point laid off somewhere 500,000 access points, and then again you are coming up with a newer facility. You do not have to worry, or newer floors. You do not have to worry how I can adopt those newer access areas. So the same access point, the same access switches can help you grow, scale up the north, south, east, west as per your network. The other aspect of microservices cloud architecture is always uptime. So even though we roll out new services, so in Mist, Juniper Mist, we call Christmas comes on every Wednesday. So every Wednesday we release new services, new features for our customers. And mind you, most of these requests are raised by customers themselves. So whenever we are releasing these new services, there are nothing gets break, is everything is seamless. Now this is the power of microservices cloud architecture. Imagine you are watching a Netflix movie, and Netflix is refreshing their network, and you just the movie stops in between because Netflix is upgrading their services. No, it does not happen that way. So Netflix is similar, it's also running on microservices cloud. The movies keep playing to you even though they are working at the back end. Similarly, the Mist services, Juniper Mist services are running, the enterprises are always up, even though the new services are rolled out. So the other aspect is the AI driven operations and support. So we have talked much on the Marvis. Marvis is our virtual network assistant, and we have come up with a new concept of Marvis, which is called as Marvis Conversation Interface. It is the initial start. However, the vision is the Marvis conversation will converse with the operations team and will guide them to pinpoint where the problem is and take corrective actions, upgrade the APs, open a tag ticket for them, upload all the logs to the tag, and do everything what a virtual network assistant has to do. So this is what will simplify the operations, and this is what we see as a true AI driven enterprise for customers. Last but not the least, the other fundamental building block is the digital experience. So the same access points, we run the same, we have our own virtual beacon, virtual Bluetooth patented technology, where every AP has a dedicated Bluetooth antenna. And so you do not have to buy different overlay Bluetooth technology to run any digital engagement. So digital engagement can be explored by any retail customers for their warehouses, for asset tracking, any hospitality customers for as a convention centers for wayfinding, for proximity messaging, or by any other enterprise customers, all the healthcare customers, to manage assets, to track asset and have asset visibility, take automated actions whenever the asset moves from one area to another area. So one of the use case been implemented by a hospital in US. They were tracking their dementia patients. So it was an inpatient area where there are dementia patients, and they were tagged with Bluetooth bands, and they were tracked. If they move around certain areas, then certain alerts were getting raised. So lot many use cases as far as enterprises can look ahead. This is the primary reason why a lot many customers are moving towards Juniper. So just uh, uh, having going down a bit technical on this slide. Okay, just explaining you, since we have been over the years, the network operations team has always been measuring, looking at how many APs are up, how many switches are up, and they are able to just try to think that their network is good, but maybe it is good, maybe it is not good. They can only say when how many tickets they are receiving in a day, but gone are the days. They can just look at the SLEs. So we have 8 SLEs in for Wi-Fi. We have 3 SLEs for a wired, and we are also coming up with SLEs for the WAN. And then they can really see this. So we have turned the table. We are trying to measure the network from the experience of the users, how the users are behaving. And maybe the network is performing 90% good for certain use cases, but there may be a 10% problem. But what if the critical services are falling in that 10%? So how we can faster troubleshoot? So Marvis helps us. So Marvis is a virtual network assistant and runs on natural language processing. So it is similar to what Alexa and Siri is, but it's understands normal English, but it's not voice enabled. So you can just ask questions as simple as who are the unhappy users, or troubleshoot user X. So usually what happens in any enterprise, you may echo my thoughts, while a user may reach out to you in a cafeteria and say, oh, today 10 a.m. was there any network problem? I had some problem while connecting to Wi-Fi. And the only answer we used to give is, let me send somebody to your place to see whether the issue is there. And most of the time we will not find the issue. But the AI driven enterprise solution along with Marvis, you can just fire a command to Marvis and ask him what was the problem with Mr. X at 10 a.m. today. And Marvis will give you all insights what this user was, whether it was a interference problem, it was a DHCP, it was a DNS, so whatnot. So this is what the AI driven enterprise solution looks like. So I have planned to do a short demo to you, but before we do that, I added one more slide to uh, mm, talk you about how what we are doing for WAN assurance. So this is the new feature, will be rolled out soon. Watch us on LinkedIn and all, and this feature will come up soon. It's in the last stages of the beta program, and this may help to customers who are troubled with a latency bandwidth issue. So just as a simplicity purpose, we have used Zoom as an application here, because this webinar is also running on Zoom. And now imagine if you are running a Zoom application, and you are connected to a Wi-Fi, which is connected to a switch, which has multiple layers in your organization, maybe an access distribution core, and then you have a gateway which is actually connecting to an internet, and then finally to the cloud where the Zoom is hosted. Now, if I ask you where the problem is, it will take nearly 2 hours for any person to troubleshoot whether it's a via Wi-Fi problem, or a switch problem, or a gateway problem, or a ISP problem. But what we are bringing to the table is a client to cloud solution, where in a matter of click, you'll be able to understand where the problem is, whether this a user problem, a user device problem, whether it's a AP problem, coverage problem, interference problem, or congestion in the LAN due to some loops happening in the network, or some bad cables or CRC errors, or it's a gateway problem, or due to latency, jitter, or application routing. So we are moving towards a next generation, next decade network with artificial intelligence, AI driven enterprise solution. So while not taking much time, I believe seeing is believing, and these are not just marketing slides. And this solution is definitely there, and many customers are using this. So I'll just take 5 minutes for going into the demo. So just be with me for this. So I'm back. So I hope my screen is visible to you now. So this is the demo, live demo. This is when we say live demo. This is our Cupertino office of Juniper Mist, where we have set this up. And while this is the welcome screen that you look at, and you can see that there are SLEs. So it's a time to connect, it's successful connects, coverage, roaming, throughput, uptime, capacity. So many of them are evaluating the pre-check, pre-authentication scenarios, and there are certain SLEs which are measuring the post-auth scenarios and certain physical scenarios where we try to measure capacity of the AP uptime and the throughput. While you can hover for a more time window here, last 7 days or more than that. So now if we look at, I'll run two use cases for you. For example, time to connect is running 98% uptime. So while we say 98% looks very good, but there is 2% there is failure happening. So, and what if the mission critical users or the business executives or certain applications are falling under this 2% bracket, it will definitely create a problem. So if I click on time to connect, it's a root cause analysis and you get multiple classifiers. Now, there was certain discussion from some panelists who we were asking how we can get the data, what is happening in my network, where the problem is. So the problem is you can go with the timeline, when this happened, what is the frequency when this happens, what is the distribution of the problem, whether the problem is related to particular OS or the problem is concentrated in particular access point area, the problem is concentrated on particular device type or certain wireless band or a certain wireless LAN SSIDs. So we get ample amount of information before you start troubleshooting. So this actually helps the operations team. And then we have the affected item, who all users have facing this problem. So we can, for example, if this user is having the most failure rate, 38%, we can just click on this user and we can get a summary of the problem. Now, while we try to read the summary, now there are certain problems which are due to some slow from response from DHCP server. Now this user is calling up everybody in the organization, I have a problem, but this problem looks to be client specific. This problem is not faced by all the clients. This is only faced by this client. Also, it has weak signal strength. So I think so this client is moving around in some places where we may not be having a better coverage. Again, this problem is faced by this client only. And then the throughput. So this all problems relate to, I think so, the location where this user is sitting. But if we want more information, we can click the inside button of this user, and we can see there are different events that we already see, the authorization. And for first time in the industry, what we have done is we have simplified network operations to such a level the network operations team does not have to run on the floor to see this problem. The problem is already captured and we have a packet capture already taken for this problem state. So whenever the user actually enters in a problem state for any reason, maybe it may be the reason from the client machine, a certificate issue, or any reason, or the AP reason, or the coverage region, or any reason. And if the client is facing more problems, the missed artificial intelligence system, machine learning system captures a packet capture dynamically. And this simplifies your network operation at such a level. You can just download this PCAP anytime and use for the troubleshooting. Last but not the least, the only thing is that you can always fire, this is the Marvis interface, and you can always fire a question, show me unhappy users in the network, and it can show you the users who are having maximum problem. And you can also change the duration of the time here. What is the time span you are trying to see these users are having a problem. So these users, we can again click, and then you can have a troubleshoot and a final statement, which we actually navigated using multiple steps. Marvis helps us troubleshoot for this user. There are three problems: capacity, AP uptime, and successful connect. And again, it actually simplifies network operations. We can decide whether we want to investigate further or not. So this is a short small video of demo, live demo. And I am definitely sure you are interested for this AI driven enterprise solution. So in future, if you would like to have more detailed demo, please reach out to us and we will be more than happy to do a demo. Thank you, Krishna. I think so it's time for next poll question for the audience.
Thank you, Shrikar, for those insights. Can we have the poll questions, please? So here we go. Once employees start returning to office, will contact tracing solution be your immediate priority considering employee safety and business continuity? So I think it's for most of them, it's yes. Let's see the percentage. Yes, so 94% they are of the view that yes, they would be using contact tracing. Any views on that, Shrika?
Yes, definitely. Employee safety and business continuity is the primary ask from. This is what we see from the poll, and why not the AI-driven enterprise solution from Juniper? Even though it's serving Wi-Fi connectivity, the same access points can help for proximity tracing and contact tracing. It's just a small service that has to be subscribed, and we can see which employees are in which location, and if tomorrow certain employee declares that he has been infected by COVID-19 disease, then definitely the HR and the admin, you can just put a query to the Marvis who were all in close proximity for this user, and Marvis, without disclosing the identity of the user, can just pull up the names who are in that zone, proximity zone with these users, or were around in these users, and the administration, the business, the company can decide to ask these other employees without disclosing the identity of the original employee to isolate themselves, get them tested, and have a restraint from getting involved in public places, and just ensure that they have good health, and the business keeps running. And this is what the solution is. Yeah.
To add to that, can I, Shrikar? Sorry.
Yes, yes, sir, please.
Rajesh,
So,
please.
yeah, sorry. To add to that also is that you can also, the good point one is this, and the second good point what it gives you is that if you, for example, if there are only 5 employees has to be in the conference room, for example, and there are 8 employees, for example, they are not maintaining the social distancing, then this Marvis will let you know that it is not following the policy what as per the contact tracing policy should be followed in that particular office, right? So then the 8 employees can move out, and that is the fantastic, because it will be very helpful in cafeteria, in the conference rooms, at the reception, at the coffee areas, right? So this is also one of the key things which it gives you in terms of keep maintaining the social distancing as well in the office premises.
Thank you, Rajesh, for that. With that, we need to move on to the next session, which is the Q&A session. Here we have received a couple of questions. What is microservices role in this? This Mist AI app is developed as microservices, is it? So anybody, Shrika or Rajesh, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, sure, Krishna. So the it's a all the APIs are managed by the microservices cloud. So we do not have a controller. It's not a controller based and architecture. So it can scale as per the business needs, and all services, the radio resource management services, the Marvis service, or the other SLE services, they are running in their own microservice architecture. So even it is, there is no app as such. So it's the entire artificial intelligence is running on the cloud using microservices architecture, so which helps the missed access points and the wired switches to give you the experience what the organization needs.
Thank you, Shrika. Another question for Juniper would be, does Juniper has load balancing feature?
Yes, so I think so. This question is more specific from the WAN aspect of the
SD-WAN,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. So the AI WAN, we already have our SD-WAN solution, but we are now integrating the AI engine in our SD-WAN solution, and it's already there. The load balancing still happens, and it will keep happening based on sessions. And we have a vision to enhance the user experience using all the technology for the WAN.
Thank you, Shrika, once again. So I could see there are a number of questions which are popping, but in the interest of time, we won't be able to take all. However, let me ask this, is Mist AI vendor agnostic?
Uh, yes, so we would have liked to do that, okay, but as people know, technology, while uh, developing a technology and coming up with a solution, is there is a long gestation period, and we have the access points or the switches or the other elements which participate in AI driven. So they have the intelligence. The hardware also needs to have the intelligence to actually communicate with the microservices cloud. And so short answer, the other vendors cannot integrate with the AI, but the AI solution what we have, even if your ecosystem is running on multi-vendor environment, if you have our other friends equipments running in your organization at a various level, no worries, we still interop with everybody, and we can still give you more input information about the connected devices. Maybe you have a third party switch connected to the Mist AP, it can still give you information about how is the health of the switch. Whatever information we could gather using open standard protocols, we can still able to do that. We can still able to tell whether there are any missing VLANs, the configuration is not proper on the third party equipment, without managing the third party equipment. So that is the intelligence level that we have in the solution.
Yeah, add to that is that we also have software development kit. So if someone wants to actually integrate something, what their personal their requirement is to the AI and give as a flow for us as an automation tool, yes, we have software development kit which can be integrated. Yes, but AI is specific to, yeah, but we can do a SDK for us.
Rajesh and Shekhar, here we need to wrap the session. But before that, need to have the final word, Rajesh and Shekhar. If I can have your final word for today's session, then I would be reaching out to Mr. Divedi and Bala Subramaniam also. So your final word, your
Yes.
message to our
Yeah, yeah,
audience.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining this session. And it was very interactive. But what we wanted to say is that now AI is becoming a reality, as Shrikar demonstrated it, the Marvis engine, what we have brought in. There is a lot of, which actually reduces the IT efforts. It increases the efficiency. And the third, what it brings in is, it brings in the predictive analysis, plus it brings in lot of capabilities in terms of resolving the issues much faster before the users come to know about it. So the complexity is reduced, the simplicity is increased, and it is end to end, what we call it as a experience first or a user experience solution, what we bring in. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining for this session.
Thank you, Rajesh. Moving on, let me ask Mr. Dwivedi his final word for today's session.
I
Over
think,
to you.
Krishna, all these words are music to our ears. All my suggestion to Shrikar and Rajesh is reach out to the customers much faster. We should not have waited for this conference to really know the capabilities of these AI tools. Please help hospitals. We need you, and you need to reach out to us. We are not as aggressive as you. As healthcare community, we are bogged down serving patients. Please take it as your social responsibility to heal us.
Sure, sir. Thanks for your kind words.
That's
We will.
great, sir. Thank you. Moving on, Subramaniam, sir, can we have your final word?
Yeah. I second Mr. Dwivedi's sentiments only. Actually, during the panel discussion, whatever we discussed, whatever points we raised, subsequently we got the answer, and that Marvis is certain catering to all those things. And how we were not aware about this. So as Divej sir said, let them reach out to the market as quickly as possible, make known about the features, because networking has to be strong. There cannot be anything where networking is not working. So the networking connectivity has to be given all the importance to have a better patient experience, better customer outcome and experience.
Yeah, so I'll just drop in another word, Krishna. Uh, it should be growth working, not only networking.
Group
Working
working, not
all the
networking.
time.
That's wonderful innovation once again. Thank you, everyone. Here, in the interest, though we have overshot time, but in the interest, I believe it was a very fruitful discussion, and we need to close the discussion here. Unfortunately, those who couldn't, like whose questions could not be responded, please write to me at krishna.mukherjee@timesgroup.com. Krishna.mukherjee@timesgroup.com. We will try to respond to your queries. And with that, let me say goodbye here. Thank you, everyone, once again for sharing your thoughts. When the world is at the curbs of a change, we need to revisit our networks, and having the right network strategy is the need of the hour. With that, I hope it was time well spent with us. For any feedback or query, please write to me at krishna.mukherjee@timesgroup.com. Many thanks for joining this session powered by Juniper Networks and Reddington. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Krishna. Thank you,
Thank you. Vimal. Thanks.
Thank you.
Rajesh and Shekhar.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thanks.
Thank you, Divej sir.
Thank you, Divedi sir. Thank you, Balsubrahmanyam sir.
Thank you, Ashwini. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Ashwini.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.